Hi everyone, please welcome with me Hannah Elam from Alaska, the US. Hannah has been living for 1 year in Costa Rica when she was 16 years old. And I'm really excited to hear her story because she was a teenager and it's a different experience if you're in your teens or if you're in your 20s or 30s. So I'm very excited to hear that. Thank you so much for making some time to share your story with me today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Are you able to tell us a little bit how this whole year of being abroad as a teenager came about?
Um, when I was when I was like a junior in high school, sorry, a freshman in high school, I went on a family trip to Mexico, and when I was there, I met another teenager who was on a study abroad in Mexico, and I don't know, we had talked for a while, and she kind of inspired me to do my own. And then at the time, my Spanish teacher in high school was from Costa Rica. And so
Wow.
that was the reason I chose Costa Rica, just because it was the only other Latin American country besides Mexico that I really knew anything about.
Yeah.
And so then for the next year, I did a lot of research into what program to choose and the cost of it. And then we did a lot of fundraising. Um, and then by my junior year, I was able to go, and I spent my whole junior year there.
Wow. Was it like an exchange? So that you went there, you went to school there. Did someone else come from there to your school, or was it mainly you were able to go like one way?
It was one way. The program I chose was just it was just one way. It wasn't an exchange, so no one came to my family to live there. I just stayed there with the host family.
Right. And you mentioned you did like a whole year of research and fundraising and all of
Mhm.
that in preparation, which means when you went when you were 16, you already started thinking about it when you were 15. So
Yeah,
quite early on.
I think I was actually 14 when I went to Mexico. So that
Yeah.
was the like first initial spark and
Yeah.
then yeah, so then um telling my parents, and my parents had both been on exchanges themselves when they were younger in college.
Yeah.
So when I told them it was something I wanted to do, they were really on board with it, and we found a program. It was called AFS USA, and um, once we picked that program, there was like interviews, there's home visits, and then matching me with the family and all that.
Right. And with that whole organization, they are also looking after you and taking care, making sure, checking in with you.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. In country, we had a there was like a countrywide group, so everyone from around the world that was doing an exchange at the same time in Costa Rica
Yeah.
would get together a couple times during the exchange, and then there were a couple trips that were extra. That wasn't required, but if you chose to do them, you could. So I did one of them. I went to Nicaragua as
Right.
one trip with other exchange students, but then also in your city, you have a group of exchange students that are with the same program and from other countries. So in my city, there was 10 of us
Yeah.
throughout the year from different countries, and we would get together like once a month and kind of just like check in, have different kinds of like events that were going on. I don't know, it just depended on what it was. Like
Yeah.
sometimes we'd So there's one time we went and picked coffee and
Yeah.
I,
Very cool.
yeah, just checking in. And but the program, provided health insurance for us, and if I had any issues throughout the year, it was I had like a contact person in my city that I would go
Yeah.
to, and yeah.
Yeah. I want to keep that whole thought because I want to ask a little bit more about that later on. But I
Okay.
want to go back, or yeah, a bit back again from the beginning because I find it quite interesting that another person was able to inspire you to do these things
Hmm.
because I can see that from my when I went on vacation, I met a lot of people from different countries and I loved talking to them, and that kind of already sparked interest in different cultures for me. Can you remember what exactly, like, were you always into different countries and cultures and like seeing that and learning new things? Or did you feel like, particularly in the moment when you met the other student,
Hmm.
that you thought, oh, I really would love to do that? Like, what can you remember any emotion, any feelings you had at that time that motivated you, or the thought process in general?
When I went to Mexico, that was my first time out of the country, I
Right.
think. I had been to Canada once, but it's it was just to go skiing, so
Yeah, yeah,
it wasn't like a big culture shock. Um, so that was my first time like really out of the country and like a completely different culture. I mean, I grew up in Alaska, which is part of the US, but also has a lot of Alaska Native culture with it. So that's kind of like the culture I grew up in was like a mixture of that. And I frequently would travel to Texas because that's where my family was from. And I loved doing those trips with my grandma. I
yeah,
loved being on the airplane and um, going new places and being in the airport and doing all the fun
yeah,
things. So then when we were able to go to Mexico, it was, um, you know, just like something like that, but bigger and better and like all brand new. And then when I
yeah,
got there, it was like there's so much here, and like the way they live is so different. And it was just so interesting. And the exchange student I met, she was actually from Chile. So
yeah,
she was from a different country going to Mexico. And to me, it was just like, it like blew my mind that someone like from a different country would travel to another country. I don't know if that like makes me sound closed-minded, but it was just like in my mind it's like the US and then like other countries, but then there's like a whole other world going on out there. So
yeah,
then when
yeah,
I met her and she's doing this, it's like, well, I want to do that too. I want to like see
yeah,
how other people live, and
yeah,
but not just like as a tourist, like actually like kind of live
yeah.
in the culture and learn more about it.
Which I think that's really cool, and I can totally relate to that feeling because I think when you talk about it, and that's why I asked the question,
Mhm.
it really makes me feel what I felt before I moved. So I really enjoy those feelings because it's
Yeah.
excitement and it's like this whole, oh my God, like new countries, new cultures, things that you have never seen before and things you thought are not possible. And all of a sudden, with the trip to Mexico and then meeting this person, it kind of opens a whole new world.
Mhm.
And those feelings, I think, are just so positive.
Yeah, and it's
So,
just like it like when I thought about going to Mexico, it's I think about like the traditional things of like the beach and there's the Mayan ruins. We were in the Yucatan Peninsula, so there's a lot of
yeah,
Mayan ruins there, and but then like just hearing or experiencing something that I have just never even considered before. It was so, you just don't expect it, I guess. Like
Yeah.
experiencing that, like you can't prepare for it. Even though it was something so small, it was just meeting one other person. And I've met people from other countries before so many times, but it's like you're from another country, but you want to learn about another country that I don't know anything about either of these countries. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, it was
Yeah.
just like crazy to me.
Yeah. Always gives me some sort of goosebumps.
You're right.
Yeah, I love that. Just yeah, the inspiration from like how one person can change your whole way of seeing things or
Hmm.
wanting more. Yeah, very cool. And you also mentioned that your parents both had been to different countries. Where did they go when they went?
Germany. They had
Right.
both done exchanges, I think only in college, but they had both done exchanges in Germany, and that's actually how they met, was on an exchange to Germany.
Yeah. Do you think because of their own experience, their reaction, because it seems like they were pretty open to it, their
Mhm.
reaction was all in all positive because of their own experience? Do you think otherwise they might have been like more concerned?
I don't know. I think they're both very open people and are very, but it could be because of like their past experiences. So I couldn't really say either way, but I think it was a big influence of, I mean, they had such a good experience, and I think wanting me as their child to be more rounded as a human, and this is a great way to do that, and they know that through their own experience, was
Yeah.
probably another big factor why they were so open to it. And it was, and it, I don't know, when the idea first came about, it just seemed so far fetched. And then we did more research and we kept doing it, and it really never felt real until like a few days before I was about to leave. And it's like, wow, I'm really about to like live in another country for a whole year. And then we all were
Yeah.
kind of like, this is a
Wow.
lot. But, we did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's such a big step, especially
Mhm.
at that age. And it's so brave as well. Like we
Also, I
sometimes
feel like,
forget.
sorry,
Oh no, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, I also feel like because I was at that age and I didn't have as much experience, it was almost a little less scary because it was so foreign to me. And now that I have more experience with that, I've thought about doing other things like that again, and it feels more intimidating now than it did then because I know what it actually means and how it actually feels, but this time it could be different. I don't know. So,
That's very interesting. Yeah. That is so interesting because I just sometimes notice how certain emotions change a lot from when you were younger to now being an adult, and a lot of things are more scary now, which is
mhm.
so weird, right? Because we would think we are now older, wiser, more experienced, and we have been through a lot more, that we should be more prepared and less scared. But yet, it's sometimes quite the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about like learning how to ski. I did downhill skiing a lot as a kid, and I would watch these like 5-year-olds just fly down the mountain, and it's like, but they've never hurt themselves skiing before. They don't know what it's like, and they just have no fear. And 5-year-olds don't have a lot of fear to begin with, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
part of it is like as a teenager, it's like I know what it means to hurt myself, and I
yeah,
don't want to do it. So, but it could be something similar to that. Like, I didn't know what it meant to live in another country. To me, it's just, I don't know, living in another house with someone else. But
yeah,
now I know that it's like it's really different, and it's way out of my comfort zone to what I'm used to here on my daily life. And
Yeah.
am I willing to do that?
Yeah, you really have to think about it more. And do you feel like it plays also into it? Because now you obviously have way more to lose. Like you build a
Mhm.
life, you have a job. Like when we were at school, we felt like we have to go to school. There's not really
Right.
any other way. So might as well be away for a year and not get in trouble for it. While now it's like you would have to give up your job potentially, or
Hmm.
it's like the stakes are higher, right? So
For sure. Yeah, I would have to do a lot more preparation, and um, it would, it's more of, instead of like gaining an opportunity, it's like, what opportunity do I want to choose? And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I've looked into the Peace Corps, and that's something I really want to do. But there's a part of me that's like, if I do that, I mean, that's 2 years of my life. I would have to not have my job here and leave my community here for 2 years. And that's,
yeah,
it's a hard decision to make.
100%. Yeah, I totally understand that. Was there ever any safety concerns? First, I always come back to the age, and I know sometimes it doesn't really matter, but it is still a very different thing if you're an adult and you are away overseas, or if you are a teenager with less life experience and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a little bit more like carefree.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any safety concerns from your parents, for example, and from yourself as well? Because Costa Rica has definitely also some areas where it might be not as easy to navigate as a teen. And
Mm-hmm.
also, how did the agency help you to feel maybe safe and not concerned about those aspects?
Well, I think I was very lucky in choosing Costa Rica because it is a very peaceful country. Not that nothing ever happens there, but I never felt like scared to be out. There were definitely times where, people would make me uncomfortable. I mean, catcalling is just huge in their culture, and I mean, it's not unique to them, but it's just kind of everywhere. So it was something that I had to get used to, but it was never like I was scared or got followed, or I mean, it was just like, I think people were more willing to come up to me and talk to me when I may not have wanted it because I was white. I mean, living somewhere like the US, everyone kind of looks a little different, but there, most people are Costa Rican. And so I definitely stood out,
Yeah,
and people liked to talk to me. And a lot of times it was totally fine, but sometimes it made me uncomfortable given the situation that I was in
yeah,
and who they were. But I was never like, I've been more scared in my own country than I ever was there. So,
yeah. Fair
and
enough.
um, I don't know. I never got it. I never got a feeling that my parents were scared of my safety. Just,
Yeah,
being away from home is hard. And
yeah,
I mean, the agency I was with would have helped me in situations if I had needed it, but I felt lucky I was never in a situation where I did need something like that.
yeah. And did you feel like when you lived with the family that that was also becoming like your own little new family for the time being?
Yes, I did switch families about halfway
Okay.
through. Um, my first host family was just not a great fit for me, and
Okay.
I had reached out to the person that my contact person in my city, and kind of let them know that I wasn't happy with the family that I had chosen, mostly just because it I didn't feel welcomed in the family,
Right.
um, and then like as a group, like with the family and the contact person, we all kind of made the mutual decision that I would try a new family.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I'm very glad that I did because the new family was very amazing, and I definitely felt and still feel a part of their family. I'm still very close to them and talk to them frequently, and um, yeah, I have a lot of love for them.
Oh, that is so sweet. I can totally understand how being away from home makes you want to have a place where you feel welcomed and as if they take you on as their own daughter for a while because you are still young, you are by yourself, and you are dependent on them
Mm-hmm.
and their way of dealing with you. Like if someone is dealing with you in a way that makes you feel not welcome, that's just not a great place to be. And it's considered your new home, and
Right.
you want to come back to every day, and you want to feel safe and protected. So I'm really glad that you were able to change and that you had such a great experience in the end. Can
Me
you
too.
remember, because you said you were going through like choosing a family, can you
Mm-hmm.
remember why you thought it would be a great fit in the first place, but now we know why it wasn't? But do you think you could have known before that that could have turned out this way? Or would are there any tips you can give someone maybe who is looking for a good family for themselves, for their family, kids, whatever? Is there anything you would now do different maybe?
Well, I think so. When I first, so it wasn't, I didn't choose them. They were just kind of matched with me. And then we exchanged contact information and talked a lot before I moved there. And there was no signs that, and honestly, it could have been a better fit. I think in the end, what didn't work wasn't any of us doing anything wrong. I think that we honestly, our personalities just didn't go very well together. I
Yeah,
think that they, again, like once they got to know me better, they probably just didn't like me as much. Um, and and I can kind of see why. I was a picky eater at the time, and I think that that was um, they took that very to heart if I didn't like food that they served. And
right.
I have expanded my palate since then enormously, but I came looking back on it and I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of rude. So I it was mutual is what is all I'm going to say. And I
Yeah,
think I don't think anyone really did anything wrong or that I could have foreseen something in the future. I think it was just like this kind of situation. And I've heard of and it was a really hard decision because there were other situations that I had heard of that were much worse than mine, and it's like, is this worth, I mean, this is part of the exchange, right? To
yeah,
live in a new culture, and maybe I'm just not adapting to this culture. And so that was kind of weighing on me too of like, am I just not able to fit in with this culture? And I don't know, maybe part of it was true. But I'm really glad that I was able to like reach out and be able to communicate that this isn't working and I'm
yeah.
not happy and I would really like to try something new, and that I did find a family that I was felt welcomed in, and that if I didn't like food that they served, they were okay with it.
Yeah, that is really nice. And you might be right. Like, it might be, as you said, nothing that anyone did wrong. It was just that it wasn't quite a match. And sometimes you can't tell in the beginning. And I think that's so important to notice as well, that
Yeah.
you are allowed to communicate that. You are allowed to say, hey guys, I think I've tried long enough and it doesn't quite work. I'm not quite as happy, and they seem to be not as happy either. And then that the agency is able to jump in and sort something out, find a new family. I think it's important that some people try to hold on to the experience way too long and then kind of destroy this whole experience that it could have been by just trying to stick it out for the whole year.
Right.
But sometimes it's worth it to just change, and sometimes even early on to be like, okay, I think that's just not working, and then try something new because
Yeah.
there might
And
be someone.
the biggest reason why I decided to speak up for myself was because I ended up spending a lot of time alone because we didn't really mesh. And so then it's like, why am I here if I'm spending all my time alone in my room not doing anything because I don't want to be in the living room with everyone.
Yeah,
And so not only is that damaging the relationship further, but it's also like I'm not even gaining really much from this experience of living in another country and another culture. So,
yes,
and that's the whole point of me doing this. So,
exactly.
yeah, I'm glad
So
that I was able to get that figured out.
yeah. And once you were able to have that full experience with the family where it just matched a little bit better, what
Hmm.
do you think was your biggest learning you could take from it, or what was your greatest experience with the new culture, and what could you take home, and also how did it influence your personality, because I'm sure it did.
Well, there's a lot of personality changes going on in a 16-year-old,
Oh
regardless.
yeah. 100%.
um, I learned a lot about independence. I mean, there the way to travel most of the time was by bus, so figuring out how to read the bus schedule, take the bus, learn how to use the currency, and all that.
Was there anything that culturally was so interesting for you that you thought this is so different, and that's, or did you have any moment where you thought this is exactly the reason why I did this? Like, wow.
I mean, the biggest reason I did it was because I wanted to learn Spanish, and I wanted to have an experience away from home. Um, so I did learn a decent amount of Spanish. I can't say I'm fluent, but
Mhm.
I can understand most. And um, I don't know, the biggest things I'm thinking of, and this isn't like it doesn't happen here, but like the school is very different. The way they teach is very different. The way the school is set up is different. I mean, everyone wears uniforms, um, and I don't know. It like it's little things that happen everywhere, but I had never experienced them, so it was just kind of like, this is crazy. Like if a teacher was sick, then you just didn't have that class, and you just sat outside and hung
Yeah.
out with your friends. And so that was like, wow, I can really just do this. And
Yeah. Have you ever, like, do you still have contact to, you mentioned you're still close with your family, your host
mhm.
family. Have you made good friends there as well that you're still in touch with?
um, I made friends while I was there, and will every once in a while still reach out to them. But honestly, the relationships have kind of drifted a little bit. I did make closer friends with some other exchange students from other countries as well. I was really close with a girl from Finland, and I went and I visited her as well in Finland. So that was really cool being able to go and
Yeah.
see her culture. And so I was also friends with a girl from Austria and another girl from Japan. So that was also pretty cool because, you know, living in another culture, but then I have these little bits of even more cultures of different parts of the world kind of like intermingling. And so, and they're also going through the same thing that I'm going through. You know, they're living with people they've never met before and that isn't their family, and they're living in a new country and going to a new school and learning a new language. So
Yeah.
we were really able to kind of bond over that.
Yeah. And that totally makes sense. And it's just such a natural thing for humans to bond over similarities and similar experience, and that you can relate so well to the other person is such a big point. And I don't know, I love that when you said, you go to one country and then all of a sudden there are people from different countries and different cultures, and you learn not just about Costa Rica and the
Mm-hmm.
people there, you all of a sudden learn something about Japan, Finland. And that is something that I always loved the most, that I met people in a different country in my holiday in Portugal, and met a girl from Denmark, and you see how they live. You learn something completely new that you haven't expected. But then also, just it opens the world, because all of a sudden I felt like we are so connected, we are so close to each other actually. And
Mm-hmm.
when you are able to go over to your friend in Finland and visit her there, it's like all of a sudden the world is so small, in a good way, in a really
Yeah,
good way. Yeah. And
yeah.
yeah, that's just amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with going overseas and living in a country and not necessarily have heaps of friends from that country,
Mm-hmm.
but still have the greatest experience. And you definitely took good new friendships, a massive learning opportunity on self growth and how you can navigate your life around with the bus and independent. So very, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it really like showed how, I mean, that's such like a transformative time in anybody's life, I think. And to really, I feel like I've always been a little bit more independent than the typical person my age. I like to do things on my own, and you know, so I wanted to do this, and I really think it gave me that like big push of like I can do it on my own. I can figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
I can travel across this country and figure it out and make it home in one piece. Sometimes it took a lot longer than I meant it to, but I did it. Sometimes it involved a lot of walking. I missed the
See,
bus.
that's also interesting, right? Because you learn that even if something happens that is not great, like missing the bus, you learn that there's always a way on how to get around or how to solve this issue. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was such an anxious child, and if I would miss a bus, I would probably wait for the next one to come and then would be really late. And I feel like I wasn't as inventive, or I wasn't as solution focused in the minute. I was sitting there and I would have wanted to cry rather than find a better way. But to be actually able to be like, okay, cool, I've missed the bus now. So what's next? And then figure it out. And then next time, if it ever happens again, you kind of already know what to do. And we sometimes underestimate how important that is as well.
Yeah, yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah. And it's great to see that you are smiling when you're talking about it. Like, you know? It's not like something where you're like, yeah, I did that when I was younger. Also, that you're considering doing something like this again in a different way and a different, yeah, it's a bigger thing
Mhm.
now, but yeah, that you didn't think, oh my God, it was the worst to go overseas and, different cultures, scary. I think
Oh
I
no.
have not ever met anyone who said that they regret that they did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was great. And yeah, and then it's completely opened the door to future travel. I mean, since then I've traveled to more countries and then have just like
Yeah.
had a love for different languages, especially. I don't really know any other languages, but like learning about them and hearing them and learning about other cultures and um, traveling to new places.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so much easier. I feel like I'm, more at a point in my life where I'm like realizing how much I don't know. Like when I was younger, it was just like I didn't know so much that I didn't even know what I didn't know. But
Yeah.
now I'm like, I know that there are all these cultures out there and I know a little bit about them, but there's so much I don't know and there's so much I want to know, and like at least I have a starting point of I know more about these now and I'm learning more about others and where I want to travel, but then there's still some that's like I really don't know much about these places, and
Yeah.
there's so much out there.
Yes, there is. And I also have that desire of seeing the new places, seeing the new cultures, going out there, traveling more. That, yeah, as you said, there's so much out there, so many countries. And I think I'm quite fortunate here in New Zealand to also meet a lot of people from different countries. And just it makes me, I might have never thought of, for example, a friend who was born in Oman. I've never heard of Oman before and I've never thought of Oman before. But since I met her and I talked to her about it, I'm like, I really would love to go there one day. I would love to see that beach that she was always going as a kid. And like those moments, I'm like, oh, wow, I would love to see all of that. And I didn't even know it was there before. So I can relate to that feeling a lot. Yeah.
For sure.
Well, before I ask you the last three quick questions, I would want to ask you one more because your dad actually moved to New Zealand, I think also around 7 years ago. And it is always interesting. I also interviewed him on this podcast, and it was very interesting because moving as an older adult
Hmm.
is not the easiest. So his story was great. But then also knowing how you feel and having a parent that actually lives overseas, that is really interesting too. So, how is it for you that you are still in the US and your dad is actually living in New Zealand now?
I mean, it's two-sided, It's really, really, really cool. I was able to visit him a few months ago, which is how we've met, and
Yeah.
um, and I'm just so happy for him that he's happy and he's in a place that's like better, and I mean, New Zealand was amazing, and also, to be selfish, it opened the door for me to come travel to New Zealand, which I probably wouldn't have done for a long time because it's just, so like out of reach, but
Yeah.
I was able to do it because my dad lives there. Um, but also, it's hard having your father. I, haven't seen him in 7 years. So that was, just something to navigate. And, and then seeing him again after 7 years was also just something to navigate. It was different, like it it felt different. I'm an adult now. When he left, I was 18, so just kind of it was
Yeah.
nothing bad. It was all good. Just,
Yeah.
but it's really cool to have that connection to something across the world, and then also being able to learn about the Maori culture was really amazing when we were living there or visiting there because he lives
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
guess.
learning more and more.
Yeah. I guess for a person like you, as we just heard in the whole past 40 minutes, for you, it sounds more like a positive addition, like a benefit in your life, having someone who is in a different country that you can explore now.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
yeah, of
yeah.
course, I can imagine that it is definitely also not always easy to get to know each other new again, because 7 years of not really being able to be with each other,
Hmm.
people change, you have changed, he has changed. It's definitely not not a given that it's just like before, or when you then see each other, you don't really know what to expect, right? But
Right, yeah, and so much has changed. I mean, these are like the beginning years of my adulthood, and then he moved to another country, which is so transformative for him too. So, again, yeah, so much has changed. And then also, it's not like it's, like a lot of children don't live near their parents, but I think it's pretty common for you to live like close enough where it's like a plane ride away or a long car drive or
yeah,
but I had to travel for over 24 hours just to get there and back. Like it's a big deal to go just to see my father. So,
yeah,
yeah, but I do have plans to come back for the holidays next year. So I'm
yay.
really excited about that.
Yeah, very cool. And I'm really looking forward to. I really hope we can catch up again because it was great meeting you here.
For sure.
And yeah, being able
And
to
yeah,
talk more about.
sorry, I was just gonna say next time I'm gonna see more of the country. We're gonna go to the South Island next time, so I'm really excited to, even though it's the same country again, to explore a brand new part of it.
Yes, yes, and they are very different as well, which is really cool. I would always, always recommend anyone who comes to New Zealand to actually try at least. I know it's hard, but to try to see a little bit of both islands because they are also quite different, and it's both very unique and really beautiful. So I'm glad that you will be able to come back again and explore a bit more, and I'm really curious to hear what you think.
Me too.
So, last questions before I wrap it up with you.
Okay.
First one. Can you remember what you missed the most in the year when you were in Costa Rica from home? Is there anything you can think of that there was like, oh, I wish I would have that?
Mm, I don't know. Snow. I'm from Alaska, so there was no. It was just rainy season and not rainy season. It was just hot all the time. So being somewhere cold was, I don't know, is nice, nice to sleep in a cold room and with a bunch of blankets. But then I moved to somewhere where it's just hot and I'm sleeping with a sheet and I'm still sweating. And I mean, your body acclimates and it was fine. Um, and there frequently wasn't hot water, but like the water wasn't that cold because it's not that cold there, but it wasn't hot, and so I like my hot showers.
Right, right. Fair enough.
So, some comfort things that
Yeah.
you take for granted here.
Yeah. Also a good reminder, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah.
Question number two. Was there any experience or activity you did over there that stood out and that just always stayed in your memory since?
Mm, I don't know. I did some traveling there while I was there, but a lot of the traveling I did there was it felt very touristy. If you're going to the beach or I did some zip lining. I mean, it's all targeted for tourists,
Yeah.
so it didn't feel very authentic, I guess.
Hmm.
I think like some of my best moments were like in the city that I was living in and just hanging out with friends and going to the coffee shop and stuff like that. It wasn't really anything huge, but like when I think of my favorite moments, it was just like hanging out with my family and going shopping or going to the market and getting fruit and stuff like that. And everything's
Yeah.
fresh there, which you can't get in Alaska. So
Yeah. Yeah. That is very cool. And yeah, sometimes it's not the big moments that stay in your heart, right? Sometimes it's
yeah,
just that
yeah.
togetherness.
I felt that like being there for so long that if I go on vacation somewhere, I want to do like all these fun things. And so I'm there for like 1 or 2 weeks and you do these like fun things. But when you're there for a year, I didn't do a lot of those because I'm there for so long. And so most of what I did was just go to school and come home
Yeah.
and eat dinner and live a normal life. But it was like
Yeah.
I had such fun doing that
Yeah.
with with really good people. So
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you. Okay. Very last question now. What small advice would you give someone who is considering doing that as well? And yeah, just
mm,
something.
I don't know, I want to like say cliche things like have an open mind, but everyone kind of already knows that. Um, I think the biggest thing I struggled with was speaking the language. It was really easy for me to rely on people to translate for me, and I really wish that I had kind of forced myself to speak more instead of just listening. I feel like my listening skills are definitely better than my my speaking skills, and I
Yeah.
wish I had practiced speaking more of the language and like putting myself out there because I had this thought that it would make me sound dumb or like I don't know, like I was going to get made fun of if I said something wrong, but everyone knew that it was my second language, that and like no one was going to make fun of me. Everyone just wanted me to speak the language that I'm there for, and so I wish I had done more of that looking back on it.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good advice for everyone because I think we are all in the same boat. Even my mom now, who is trying to do a bit more English again, which is so sweet, she is also terrified to use it. But then she noticed the more she speaks it with other people in other countries, and they are so happy to see that she's trying. And then,
Yeah,
yeah, it's never a negative thing. I have never heard that someone was like having negative experience for trying, and that is such a good advice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've never come into a situation where I felt embarrassed for or like I felt shamed for using Spanish. So I mean, I can't say I don't know where it comes from. It just comes from like my thoughts. But it's like every time I've ever spoken Spanish with someone who speaks Spanish natively, it like they've always been like, "I'm so happy you're speaking Spanish," or like, "Your Spanish is so good. Like you need to
Yeah.
speak more. This is great." So.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's, I think, really encouraging. So Thank you
Okay.
so much, Hannah. I'm so glad you shared your experience. It was so nice to learn about your life and about how it was for you over in Costa Rica, especially I haven't been, so it's nice to
Oh,
learn something. And yeah, I guess also important sometimes to hear from other people that you can do it even when you are 16, for example, and of course have the money to do it because it doesn't come for free.
I know.
um,
We did a lot of fundraising, a lot of garage sales, and stuff like that.
yeah, so but you took a year of collecting money and working
Yeah,
on it, so even if that's your dream, if it doesn't come true immediately, but at least you kind of have a plan and you can work towards that goal. And that is really cool to see how much you wanted it to actually go out of your way to try and, get to it as well.
yeah.
So, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for
And
having me.
yay. I really hope that everyone who's watching or listening is enjoying it as well. And I hope we're here next time. Bye.
Bye.